There is one thing that has to happen on a consistent basis for you to grow your real estate investing business. And that thing is looking at deals and being able to properly evaluate them. Now, deal evaluation can be this big topic where it could take you 30 minutes to look at a deal, 45 minutes to look at a deal. You don't need that much time. In fact, I look at deals. It typically takes me about 30 to 60 seconds to know if this is something I could potentially do and it warrants more time, or if it's something I should just kick out. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you my quick evaluation framework that you can look at deals quickly to know, should I move forward with this opportunity? Should I look at this one deeper? Should I start trying to figure out how we can get this deal done? Or should I just move on? Being able to do that will help you do more deals every single month, guaranteed. Let me show you how. Now today, we are on day number 4 and we're going to talk about underwriting. Underwriting seems to be like one of the trickiest subjects for investors in general, just understanding like what a good deal looks like and how to quickly run your numbers to see that. Because, one of the problems that I see time and time again for new wholesalers is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm on email blast. I don't even know how these people get my email, but I get deals sent to me all the time. Does any of you guys get any deals sent to your email from other investors being like, wholesale opportunity? How often are those deals any good? Never. I'm like, how are these people making any money? How many sellers are they making upset because these deals are awful? It makes me wonder, say, okay, well, I don't know how they're running their numbers, but I don't know where they're pulling these comps. So I think it's important that you guys understand just some basic frameworks of comping in general, is that's what we're going to be going over today. So you can see kind of like how I go about it, the process. It's quick. It's simple. You should be able to, before I need to dig deeper into something, I could take a high level view and say, oh, this is worth pursuing or it's not. That's the level I want to get you guys to today. Because I still, to this day, even have some students from time to time that bring me a deal and say, Matt, they want a cash offer. I look at it and I'm like, well, what do they want? They want 235 and the ARV is 250. I'm like, what are we talking about here? They're discounting $15,000, which basically covers a buyer's agent commission. They're asking retail for this house. And what you're going to find a lot of the times in this model, working with agents and honestly still working with sellers, there's going to be a lot of scenarios where you're about $20,000 off based on what they're asking and what you can pay. And I want to challenge you guys to not say yes to the deal and hope for the best, not just give it a shot, because that's how you can quickly burn a lot of relationships. If somebody's asking 185 and like, dang, I need to get this for 165 because I think I can sell it for 175 or 180. Do not get that property at 185. You got to stick to your guns. You got to say, hey, I got to be very confident in my numbers. There's a lot of scenarios where you're going to be pretty close, and that's where these other wholesalers go wrong. Those deals that you get via email, those deals that get blasted out all the time, they probably got the contract at 185 and they're trying to sell it for 205. But all their offers are going to come in at 175. So we're doing this to make money. We're doing this to to close deals consistently. And the quickest way to not do that is to get properties too high and then not have enough options for the sellers. So we're going to underwrite a little bit today and we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios. Okay. So in underwriting, let me go ahead and highlight the screen. In underwriting, there's 2 different types of deals you guys are going to be underwriting in any given day. Okay. You have cash deals that you're going to underwrite. You have creative deals you're going to underwrite. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I want to put it on a flow chart so that way I can put this into school group after we're done. I'll start with cash because it's easier to understand, and then I'll go to creative. All right. So cash, first and foremost, the first thing I look at, if you want to quickly look at these deals, you want to be roughly, when I see somebody has a property for 340 for sale, my initial number in my head, I go 50% of ARV, and I can go up or down based on condition of the property. So that's a really quick framework. Whenever you get a property and they said, hey, we want to get a cash offer on this one, well, in your mind's eye, the first thing that you have to find is the ARV on that property, the after repair value. So then you can look at okay, well, if I know, and it's not even against, sometimes I even ask the agent, say, well, you know what? After I do all this work to the property, and I go and fix it up and we get it basically 2025 standards, just brand new updated. What do you think I can sell it for? Right. And they'll normally give you a number. Sometimes, a lot of times it's higher than what ARV actually is, maybe 10, 20 grand. Some agents are wild with their prices and they don't even really know, but I ask them, I put the ball in their court. So, and then in my mind's eye, I can just automatically go okay, so you telling me after fixing it up and doing everything, this property is going to be worth about $350,000. Okay, cool. Well, in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, my initial offer is going to be 175. And then I'm going to have to go, well, tell me more about the condition of the property. Tell me, what's going on with it? What do I really need to do to it to get it to that level. And then as we're saying stuff, if they're like, oh, well, it's really clean, it's not bad, blah, 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 whatever. Then I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can pay more than 175. But if they're like, yeah, it's full gut, it's down to the studs, blah, 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 like, they've already knocked all the walls out, there's no air conditioner, then I'm like, all right, I'm going to be less than 50% ARV. Does that make sense, you guys? So like, it's a helpful frame to look at it when you're talking to someone on the phone, because if they're telling you a number, like in your mind, you kind of know where the conversation needs to go. If you're thinking 50% ARV plus or minus based on the condition, right? And this is how deep we need to buy deals. Now, a lot of people are still stuck with the whole 70, 80% minus repair thing. And that works in some markets, kind of, sort of, not really. The market's changed a lot since whenever everybody was printing money from 2021 to 2022 with deals literally flying and appreciation going crazy, right? We have to buy these deals deep. And if you're in Tampa, you're more like 30% ARV, which is crazy in a lot of these places, especially in the flood zones in like St. Pete. If you like this video, then you are going to love our school community. School.com/no fluff real estate. You're going to find the recordings from our live trainings. You're going to have opportunities to join in on the live trainings themselves, and literally everything you can imagine to get support on, from negotiations, underwriting, all the different topics that we don't even post on the YouTube channel are inside of the school community. But the best part is the community. Be surrounded by other investors that are doing exactly what you're doing, learning this information, but more importantly, taking massive action on it. Let's get back to the training. Nonetheless, this is a helpful frame to look at a deal, because I don't know if you guys have known or seen this before, but when I underwrite cash deals, if we get into the nitty gritty of it, like where we actually come up with our numbers, let's just say ARV is $350,000. And then after we take our ARV, first thing we subtract is we subtract cost to sell the home. So this roughly is about 7% in costs. Quickly, you can just multiply, if you guys want to do the math here, 350,000 times 0.93. And this leaves you with 325,500. All right, from there, now what we're going to do, next step, is we are going to subtract out flipper profit. So this is where I do things maybe a little bit different than most people. I go ahead and take profit off the top, because if you guys read profit first, it'll make a lot more sense. But we're taking what we want to make from the deal immediately before we take into account costs and stuff like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract flipper profit. And a flipper right now is for a $350,000 house, they're going to want to typically make anywhere from 12% to 15% profit. So if it's a $350,000 house, if you wanted to take 12%, if you wanted, even if you just did 12%, well, we know the flipper would probably, it's like 39,000 and some change. Like they're probably going to make around 40 grand to do this, right? So yeah, because I think 15% is like 44 and some change, and 12% is like 39 and some change. So I would just say somewhere around 12 to 15%. If we want to make easy math here for this example, 40,000, right? So that's 285,500, right? And I'm just going to put here in parentheses around $40,000, which is going to be standard. Like no one's going to want to go flip a $350,000 house and probably not make at least 40,000 right now. When the market was hot, they were doing it for 8% profit, 10% profit. They were okay with like 30, 35,000, something like this. But 12 to 15% is kind of minimum what they'd be looking for. I personally, I don't take any flips on that. I know I don't have at least a $50,000 profit margin. But that's just me. Most of your flippers would be okay with something like this. All right, now 285,500 is what you're left with after subtracting flipper profit. Next thing we got to subtract, right? Now we will subtract the cost to renovate. Okay, so if you guys know, you're looking at about roughly $25 to $30 for a cosmetic. You're looking at about a 50 for a moderate, say per square foot for a moderate rehab, and you're looking at roughly about $70 per square foot for a full gut. Let me do here per square foot. I'm just gonna leave it like that so it's easier. All right. So about $25 to $30 per square foot for a cosmetic remodel, $50 square foot for moderate, about $70, probably to $75 for a full gut. Now, if it has fire damage, it's way more. This is not like if it was like flooded or if it is fire damage, like it's gonna be more than this number. But just assuming it was just really nasty, you're looking about roughly $70 a square foot. Okay. So let's just say the characteristics of our home that was for $350,000. Let's just say it's like a 1,600 square foot home. Okay. And let's just assume it needed a moderate rehab. Okay. Moderate rehab, meaning that, it has some smells inside. Like there's definitely some rooms that are a little suspect. Like we had to replace some subfloor and some walls, have already been kind of like knocked out or just whole, it's like you could tell like cosmetic is grandma's house. A moderate rehab is like, we're going to salvage a lot of this stuff, but it needs a lot of work. A full gut is like everything's got to go, right? So we're going to say this one's a moderate rehab. So as $50 times 1,600 is going to be, for this one, $80,000 on a rehab. Okay. So now we will subtract, which is, let me say home needs just so you guys, when you go back and read it, you'll see where I got these numbers. Moderate rehab. So we subtract 80,000. Okay. So now the numbers are 285,000 minus 80,000. Okay. That leaves us with, let's say 85,500. Sorry, guys. Okay. So that leaves us with $205,500. Now, the next thing that we have to do, again, we're not line iteming out all the different things we need to do in a property. Like if I was flipping it, I would go and I line item out the floors and the kitchen and all the other stuff. And I'll show you guys here in just a second how we get the ARV and like how this process actually works with the rehab budget. But still, just to continue on this example, we now will subtract holding costs, right? So holding costs is anywhere from, 1,000 in rehab equals 1 day, right? Let me just do that like that. Some people say, hey, 10,000 in rehab equals, it depends on your cruise, but 10,000 in rehab equals 7 days. So it saves you some time. But if you just want to do easy math, just do like $1,000 a day, right? So if I have an $80,000 project, how long is that going to take me? So an $80,000 project equals 80 days, right? So holding costs, all your flippers are going to typically buy with a lender. Like right now, I see a big uptick in all of our buyers using freaking appraisals. They're using traditional loans to buy these houses, which is crazy, do their fix and flip. So they're going to need, there's this whole time frame is very important for them to put their budget in. So they're going to be getting a loan. They're going to be spending high interest to buy these homes to do fix and flips. But it's not just the project you have to take into account for. You also have to look at the average days on market, right? Yep, Jake, I do. I'll show you. So you got to look at days on market. So depending on your market, like some average days on market is like 45 days. Some days on market is like 15 days. So you definitely want to look at that for the zip code. And if you want to find that out, you can literally go to Zillow Home Value Index and get market statistics from Zillow for average days on market and a zip code. So you could type in zip code, if I'm in Phoenix, 85295 or something, ZHVI. And I could scroll down. In fact, you know what? I'll show you guys. Housing market and trends. So look, if I scroll down here for the specific zip code, it tells me there's 143 homes for sale as of November, 48 new listings, and 23 days is the median days till pending. And then you have about a 30-day close. So a total from the days it's sitting on market to the days it's pending plus the 30-day to close, it's going to be about 53 days most likely to close. So that's about 2 months. Does that make sense, you guys? What up, Tony? Good to see you, Tony. Thanks for being here. So when I'm looking at, trying to project out our holding costs, I can literally go type in the zip code. Again, I got here from typing in zip code ZHVI, click the top link, went down, I could see basically the median days till pending. So I add 30 days on top of that to account for a close of escrow period. So it's about 53 days. So it's about 2 months. So if I'm going back to my flow chart here, so if it's 80 days for the project and I know days to sell is roughly going to be about 60 days. So then my total project from the time I buy it to the time I sell it is roughly, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, right? So 5 months of holding to do the whole thing, right? And that'll be running a tight ship. So we have to calculate what would someone spend on hard money, roughly at around 12% is what I calculate. So if they're spending 12% in money, what would they spend in holding cost, right? So if someone bought this property from you for $205, right? What would they spend in holding cost, right? So let's go ahead and, and what we can do to also figure out holding costs is if you want to throw in the renovation budget in there too. So if they bought it for $205 and also got a loan for the renovation budget, which is very likely. So they bought it for roughly $285. What would be their holding costs on $285,000? So again, what I'm doing here is I am saying holding cost is based off of $205,500 plus renovation. So plus 80,000. Okay. Or you can simply just base this off of, hey, whatever it was, the cost to sell minus the flipper profit, 285,500, this number right here is the number that you base the holding cost of, right? So I'll say this, I'll just put it here in the flow chart. So it's basically ARV minus cost to sell minus flipper profit equals 285,500. And then you're going to multiply this. Okay. So now we have this number, not to lose you guys. 285,500 is our number we're basing this off of. Let me just do this. Based off this right here. So 285,500. All right. And we're going to multiply this by 0.12 because this is an annualized interest rate. So 12% interest on 285,500 interest only loan. What's that number, you guys? 285,500 times 0.12. That's 34,000. This is this number right here. 285,500 times 0.12 is 34,260. Okay. That's how much someone would spend in interest. Okay. That's how much someone would spend in interest to hold this loan for a year, but they're not holding it for a year. We just said they're going to hold it for 5 months. So let's figure out what they would spend monthly. $2,855, right? Plus any utilities and little things like that. I'm not even going to put that into the budget. I'm just going to leave it like this for easy math. All right. So 285,500 is the number. So let's go back to our flow chart and say, okay, well, this equals, what was that number? 34,260. Okay. Right. And now we'll divide that by 12 to get monthly payments of 2,855, right? And now we know this is 5 months of holding. So we'll multiply this by 5 months equals, to get that number times 5, 14,275, right? So we put that back on the chart. So they're holding on this. Their holding cost is $14,275. Now, most people do not take an account for this, right? They forget that there's going to be holding cost. So the reason why they get their properties locked up too high, this is basically what they're trying to say. Oh, well, somebody's going to buy it from me for $205. No, they're not. They're going to spend $15,000 in holding costs. They're not going to buy it for $205 because otherwise this $14,275, where does that go against? It goes against the profit. So instead of them making $40,000, they make $25,000. No one's going to take that risk for a $350,000 house to make $25,000. They'll have better deals, right? So total of $14,275. Okay. So that's the thought process there. So what I'll do is I'll take our number here of 205,500 and I will subtract out holding costs of 14,275, right? And that leaves us roughly, okay? And that leaves us roughly with 90,725, something like that, right? That is the number that you could probably sell this deal for. Now, this number does not include your assignment fee. And we try to target a $20,000 assignment fee, and knowing that normally $20,000 easily goes down to 15. So that's why the assignment fee ends up being somewhere between 15 and 20, but we try to make at least 20 on our agent deals. So what you'll find a lot of times is you'll run across properties like this. The ARV is 350. It needs a moderate rehab. Say, hey, it needs everything, but you could probably keep some of the stuff inside the house. It's dated, but you're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. So, okay, this is going to be a moderate rehab. I think we're going to spend $80,000 here, right? Well, when that's the case, you're going to find a lot of times that the agents are going to be asking somewhere between like 200 to 190. And you're like, dang it, I can't do that because it's not going to include my fee. Because the next step you have to do is you take the 190,725, which is the price your buyer will pay, and subtract your wholesale fee. Okay, so 190,725 minus, let's just call it $20,000 equals 170,725. For easy math, you probably just say 170K. Now look at that number. Look at that number, you guys. $170,725 is your number. What did I tell you guys to do over here? I said, a helpful framework when you're looking at these deals is 50% of ARV up or down based on condition. Well, 50% of ARV is what? 175. How close would that be? If you're in your mind's eye thinking around 175, you're probably going to be in a good position on the deal, just depending on condition, right? So the buying side closing cost, Brandon, I don't put it into the initial purchase, into the initial numbers here, right? Hopefully they're able to save some money on the rehab. We're spitballing the rehab whenever we're doing our numbers. If we're not getting in the house and line item out all these things, they may spend $75,000 instead of $80,000, right? Maybe they see it as a $70,000 thing. If we are basing our flipper repair numbers on like a general blanket $25, $50 square foot, $70 square foot, there's definitely going to be a profit center in there for the flippers. They're probably not going to spend 80 grand. There's probably going to be places where they can save some money. So you could take that and put it towards closing costs or whatever. Just find it easier to do it this way rather than line iteming out everything. So this is a quick way to look at your deals, and that's what I wanted to leave it at for the cash stuff today. Because as you're going and having these conversations, you're using the qualification flow chart, you're going through it and you're asking questions. And this should help you whenever an agent tells you they have an on-market property and it's listed, it's been sitting there for 100 days, and they say the sellers aren't really negotiable, so they may go down 10 grand, but that's probably the least they'll go down. You should know immediately, yeah, we're going to be pretty far off. 50% ARV. You guys are asking 200, even if it's less than what the property is worth. Obviously, it's still overpriced. I know I'm going to be way lower than your guys' list price based on this framework. Does that make sense? Give me a heck yes in the chat if that makes sense. When I go through underwriting and stuff, sometimes I feel like you guys are like nodding off like it's math class. So, all right, sweet. Let's go. Okay, cool. So you can go back through here. Hopefully this, with me writing everything out, this makes a lot of sense as you guys go back and read this today.